Okay. Mic check 1 2 1 2. I am the Y2K Collector, and I'm back as promised with part 4. I believe it's part 4 of my PlayStation Collection series. It's a series that I'm doing, just basically breaking down my PlayStation 1 collection. I started the first part off talking about the alternatives, and those were just games that were so expensive that I either needed to get a reproduction game or a reproduction case of some sort. Then the second episode was pretty much me going into my shovelware. I spent the following episode talking about the low tier games, and then the last episode I went over some mid tier PlayStation games. So I guess this would be episode 5. In episode 5 I'm going to be talking about my top tier PlayStation 1 games. Now please keep in mind that these are my top tier PlayStation games. You may have PlayStation 1 games in your collection that far surpass the ones that I'm getting ready to show here today, but these are the ones that I feel are top tier in my collection, and I'm basing that off of 3 categories, and that's going to be gameplay, then you have the graphics or the appearance of the game, the aesthetics, everything from the cover art to the actual graphics of the game, and then the third component for me is just going to be its value, and that's just going to be its overall market value, what someone would be willing to pay for the game, right? Because usually value is an indicator of desirement, how much people want the game, and usually people want the best games, the games that are the most fun. You will always have games out there that just mean something to someone regardless of how much they cost, but that's not what we're looking at today. So without any more jabbering or blabbering, I'm going to go ahead and get this top tier PlayStation collection started. So I'm going to kick things off with the first game, and the first game that we have here is good old Jersey Devil. Now Jersey Devil didn't always fall in this category, and graphically it's not the most fun graphic. It doesn't have the best graphics on the PlayStation 1, but it is an adventure platforming action game, which wasn't super common on the PlayStation 1. It's very difficult to get, not a ton of them, hard to find them in good condition, and so the value of these have gone up. I really don't care that much about that though. This is just a fun game, so check it out. The next one up is one that has also gone up, and this would be Legend of Mana. So Legend of Mana is a Squaresoft game back in the OG Squaresoft days. This is a great RPG, and that's one thing that I don't say enough as I go through this series. I talk about my action games, my hack and slash beat 'em ups, but I haven't mentioned my love for shmups, and I haven't talked about the RPGs, which the PlayStation is probably where I have the most RPG games, and Legend of Mana is definitely one of them. Very good looking game, especially for the PlayStation. Sprite based, hand-drawn artwork. I love games like that, and as a matter of fact, there's a new game that recently came out or is coming out, and that's Eastward. Eastward, amazing looking game. Definitely can't wait to get my hands on that. The next game in this tier is going to be Darius. I was able to get this at a good price before everything started to explode. And Darius is just another Darius game. You can pick this game up in one of the compilations that are out for the Nintendo Switch. I think it's also probably out for like the PS4 in one of those Darius collections. But if you want to play an OG Darius game, you have Darius here on the PlayStation 1. Next up, this game recently was added to the collection, and this is Rising Zan. This game for some reason reminds me of Blood Will Tell and Samurai Western, and those are 2 PlayStation 2 games. I feel like, and on some level, they had to have been influenced by Rising Zan, but this is basically an action, kind of like as open world as you could get on the PlayStation 1, right? But action adventure game where you're this cowboy with a samurai sword and you're shooting, blasting your way through. Age Tech, great company. They've produced some of my favorite games on the PlayStation 1, and you may see that as we go on. The next one up we have here is WuTang Shaolin Style. This game is actually pretty pricey. I didn't think it would be as expensive as it is. I know we got that new WuTang TV series coming out, but this is pretty much just a beat 'em up, right? This is like a fighter, and it feels a lot like Fight for New York. I think there's a Fight Night, Fight for New York. There's like the Def Jam fighting games. A lot of that. This, you know, you can see the influence here in WuTang Shaolin Style. So if you like a good fighter, check that out. Next one up is Threads of Fate, another RPG. Squaresoft, love those guys. This might have been the heyday of Squaresoft. I'm not a gaming historian. I'm just going based off of the games and when they were made and how fun they are to play, how fun they were then and how great they are now. And Threads of Fate definitely falls into that top tier category for me. This is an action RPG game where you can choose if you want to be the girl or the boy. Don't remember the names right now, but this is definitely one. I didn't play this one much. I haven't gotten super far into this one. I think it might have been the graphics. I was hoping the graphics would be a little better, but still a great game nonetheless. Here we go. This is one that I've definitely played, and I need to put more time into this one. But Breath of Fire 3 is a classic, Capcom classic. This is an RPG classic, one of those turn-based RPGs. But this is just a great game, really good-looking game. Has that whole, again, that sprite-based feel. So. And I kind of just walked into a game store, one of the last game stores around me before they all shut down. And I remember that was just sitting in there. And I said, I'll pick that up. All right. Star Gladiator. I know Hayato from Marvel vs. Capcom 2, but Star Gladiator is where, this may not be the first place we see him, but this is where we see him first on the PlayStation. This is basically just a fighting game, a 3D fighting game. Kind of has that whole Virtua Fighter Tekken feel, but with a Capcom, you know, anything Capcom has a different feel on it. So, but yeah. A pretty decent fighter, nothing to write home about, but again, it's just one of those games, especially if you get it in the Capcom Fighters Edition, which was a limited edition that Capcom came out with back in the day. Those tend to have a little bit more value on them. Next up is SNK, or rather Capcom versus SNK Pro. Wasn't a fan of these. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I get it. I got this game because, you know, I'm a huge fan of Capcom fighting games, and it does give me some exposure to like the Fatal Fury, you know, a lot of those SNK fighters, which I'm not a huge fan of. I'm just a diehard Street Fighter guy. Grew up playing Street Fighter games and Marvel games, so never was really too much into the SNK stuff. But this is one that I have here, and it is in the top tier. This is a pretty pricey game on the PlayStation, especially when it comes to fighters, because there aren't too many really expensive fighters. Maybe outside of X-Men versus Street Fighter. I know that one's pretty pricey on the PlayStation. Okay, next up, Gekko. This is a great shmup. There is another name for this game on the Sega Saturn. Can't remember it right now. If you can remember it, please comment down below and let me know. But Gekko is a cool shmup. I picked this one up again at a local game store. Sealed, not a bad price. Fully sealed here, and I've yet to open it up, but I do believe that this is available on a compilation, so I may just leave this sealed and play it on that compilation. But was glad to get this shmup into the collection because I am a shmup fan. Okay, next up, this is one I haven't played yet at all, but this is like an action, I believe this is like an action RPG, and I believe this is part of a long-running series, the Deception series. Yeah, this is Deception 2, or otherwise known as Kagero. And I think out of the series, this one has more like action and adventure feels to it, which is why I grabbed this one up. But pretty good condition here. Tecmo, great company, great reputation. Next up, Skull Monkeys. Graphically, this is a really fun game. This is a PlayStation 1 classic, man. Like, has that pretty cool cover there where the eye does the little shaky eye thing. So, there you go. I forget the term for that. You can leave that comment down below as well. But Skull Monkeys has definitely gone up in price. It's pretty hard to get this. I got this when I was going on my PlayStation 1 run. There was just a time where I was solely focused on collecting for the PlayStation 1, and I was able to pick that up. Next up, this is kind of slept on. Not too many people know about this one, but Jackie Chan, Stunt Master. This is a really cool 3D beat 'em up game. with some platforming elements. It's kind of clumsy though. Like the platforming is really hard on this game. Like it's clumsy, and I think you can do like wall jumps. Like he can bounce off the wall, but it's not super accurate. So it would be way more fun if it was more accurate. But this is still a very fun PlayStation 1 game, and really good graphics for a PlayStation 1 game. You could tell money was put into this. Yeah, this is a good one. Jackie Chan Stunt Master. If you like beat 'em ups, I love beat 'em ups. Okay, then we have another sprite-based action RPG here, Silhouette Mirage. And for all of you working designs super fanatics out there, I'm sure this is an art cover that you can definitely love. Just look at the shimmer on that. This was enough to get my attention. Like if I walked into a game store and didn't know anything about this game and just saw this cover, I'd say, yeah, let me get that one. But no, Silhouette Mirage is a very fun action RPG game. It's kind, it has almost feels like a shooter, almost like a shmup, side scrolling, but it's not. It's like a, it's different. It's different. You got to look, you know, pull this up on YouTube. There are a ton of videos about this game that explain it. So many others that could explain this way better. But this is just a very fun action, side-scrolling kind of RPG game. Check it out. And the controls on that game take a while. I remember I was playing that for a while, and it took a bit for me to kind of get the hang of it. All right, let's keep it rolling. So next up, we have Ray Crisis. I love a good shmup. There are some amazing shmups. This is another working designs game here. Check it out. Really cool cover. This is a part of a shmup family, which includes Ray Storm as well. And Ray Storm, sorry, I had to reach for that one. If you haven't played this, this is also a part of a shmup collection on the PS2. I believe it's, if you get the Tato Legends 2 collection, you can play Ray Storm on the PlayStation 2. Doesn't feel the same as playing it on the PlayStation 1 though. Ray Storm is just a classic shmup that you got to check out. This is an arcade classic here, Strider 2. This is one that is just top tier for me. Gameplay, art style, graphics, you just feel like you're in the arcade. Very fun. It's basically like a side-scrolling hack and slash action game. Not too long, but pretty fun, pretty good looking, pretty pricey these days as well. Then you've got Breath of Fire 4, an amazing RPG. Again, PlayStation, home to some great RPGs. This is a Capcom classic. Definitely check out Breath of Fire 4. I've done videos on that one before. Vagrant Story, a super interesting Squaresoft RPG game. This is an action RPG game, and honestly, this is an amazing game. I played a little bit of this game, and I just remember thinking to myself, if they could have gotten the graphics just a little bit better, man, this would have been a super classic. But wanted to spend more time on this game, but never really got into it. But the little I played of it, this is a very fun action RPG. Squaresoft games just always feel so detailed. Oh, look, we got another Squaresoft game, Brave Fencer Musashi. Right, so this is a really fun action RPG game. Pretty fun. And there's a part 2 to this that came out on the PlayStation 2. It's actually called Musashi. Where do I think I have it right here. Yeah, this would be, yeah, they came out with a part 2. Yeah, so check it out. Musashi, that's when they converted over to Square Enix. All right, so we're getting down to the wire with these top tier PlayStation 1 games. So next up in that category, we have Dragon Valor. So this is another kind of like action side-scrolling 3D RPG game. Pretty cool. Got your sword, you got your moves, your power-ups. This was pretty cheap when I was on my PlayStation run. You could get this for about $30-35, but I think this has gone up a lot, especially to get it complete in box. Next up, Vanguard Bandits. This is another working designs RPG game that I wanted to get my hands on just because of how the gameplay mechanics work. Like, it's RPG, but then when you actually get into battle, it's like it's just interesting. Like, I just like the way they did it. Haven't played this too much, but I want to get into it a little bit more. And then the getting down to the wire here. We have Alundra Part 1. I covered Alundra 2, I think, in my low tier, because Alundra 2 just doesn't hold the same value, isn't as classic, isn't as fun. But this is just a Zelda-like RPG on the PlayStation 1. Check it out. A working designs game. Definitely tons of fun. And we're getting down to the last few here. We have, next up is Silent Bomber. This is a very fun 3D kind of open world action game where you just like drop bombs on your enemies. You have to place them and like time when you make them explode, and it's just very interesting, very futuristic. This is a very, very cool, interesting game, and Bandai's been making hits since back in the day, and this is a sleeper. If you ever get the chance to get your hands on a copy of Silent Bomber and play it, please play it. This is a fun game. All right. Next up, Castlevania Chronicles. This doesn't really need a lot. I mean, I'm a Metroidvania fanatic. I love that style of gameplay. And so, you know, I had to have this one in the collection. Not better to me than Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which is also in the top tier. I have the greatest hits version, but honestly, this is one scenario where I actually like the greatest hits cover versus the black label. The black label's cool, but I don't know. The greatest hits version just pops for me. That's besides the point. This is a very fun game. Just the gameplay, the weapons that you get, the power-ups, how you fight the enemies, the sound effects, the music. I find myself, I can't play this game because if I play this game too long, I'm going to be humming the soundtrack all day. But Castlevania is a great game. Check it out. Top tier. Also, another greatest hits top tier, Xenogears. Got to check this out. If you love a good RPG, Xenogears is up there. Graphically, it's kind of tough. It's a little tough graphically, but again, the story, the gameplay makes up for it. So Xenogears is one you want to check out. And last but not least, in this top tier is Adventures of Lomax. Yes, this is I love my side scrollers and platformers, and this just, I mean, the hand-drawn artwork on this game, the way you play, just a pretty fun game, and I would definitely recommend you checking that out. And that does it for my top tier PlayStation 1 games. There are a few that I really would love to get in my collection. Would love to get my hands on a copy of.